I don't know if I was the first, but probably closer to the beginning. It seems like people out there looking at artificial intelligence, especially those that are in service type industries, aren't looking potentially where they should be. So that first thing that you should be concerned about is whether or not you're going to be within the systems where people are starting to use like they used to use Google. Are you going to be showing up? If you're a real estate agent, are you going to be appearing in those results? And how actually are the results going to be rendering? It is a little early to find out what their final form will take on, but it probably is going to be not in the chat itself, but some kind of an overlay for the people that aren't paying for the $20 a month, at least on OpenAI's ChatGPT. That's the first one to have gone ads in. We'll have to see what happens with that and how the system actually puts the listings in there for those advertisers. So that itself is going to be pay to play, just like when 2018 Meta broke the algorithm out there and they started to allow ads on Facebook, which are actually phenomenal and very scalable depending on your type of business. And we set that up as well. But besides that, moving from that world into the ChatGPT world, when they're going to start to allow paid advertising, we'll have to see how that unfolds. And it could be, yes, that is that moment that we've all been looking for. Now, if you look at Google pay-per-click versus Meta and that particular pay-per-click type campaign, seems like you get a lot more eyeballs on your stuff on Meta than you do on Google. Google's going to go to a more general audience. Facebook is much more precision, and maybe ChatGPT's OpenAI is going to be a little bit more reminiscent of Google, but we'll have to wait to see. There are a lot of people talking about that. Now, in the AI space, as far as real estate agent goes, and we're right at the last day of January 2026, a lot of agents are having the question, where should I be with AI with regarding to my business? And if you're not using it in daily interactions, asking about content, putting together social media posts, even using the systems that are more updated, the ones that are more tied in with the daily type news, like your OpenAI, ChatGPT, and your Groks out there. If you're using those particular systems and you're gleaning real estate information from the news sources out there, well, if you're not doing that, you should be. And then with that, taking that content and then discussing with it the best ways to strategize releasing that to the public, the people that happen to be in your market looking to buy or sell real estate, great. If you're a plumber or some kind of a service provider in that world, you might want to do some research using artificial intelligence and finding out the top 10 plumbing complaints that consumers have when hiring a plumber and start to tackle those, address those. And I'm sure that once you hear complaint number one, whatever that happens to be, that you'll fall right in line. So, well, I do my business differently, and this is how. But also take what you do, put that into AI, and then have it work with you on even a more refined and a better response. You might be looking at something kind of one-dimensional, two-dimensionally, not taking the full breadth and weight of it in because you're in the business and maybe you're a couple degrees of separation between you and maybe even hiring yourself as a service provider. And I know that a lot of people get that blindness when it comes to real estate as well. Real estate agents not realizing what people actually need. Same thing happens in law enforcement, cop a long time. You forget the civilian population calling you really scared because it's probably been a while since you were really scared as a police officer. Just depends on how you're, I guess, wired and what kind of exposure you've had, and then how you handle that exposure to these various threats that human beings probably were never really meant to see on a daily basis. But looking at the public sector, it helps when that particular cop remembers, oh my God, these people are scared. I need to understand that they're terrified, that they're scared. And the same thing in real estate. This person's about to spend more money than they have because they're going to be using a mortgage that's going to take 30 years to pay off. And so they don't have that money in the bank to buy this $1 million house. They're going to have to borrow it. And in borrowing it, there's a lot of things to look at. Are they going to be sure that the house is going to be okay? Is it in good condition? Are they going to be sure that this particular loan isn't going to increase? What about the homeowners association? Could that get more expensive? What about Melrose? Is that a thing to be concerned about? And then what happens if my neighbors, they have a boy band next door, they're playing till all hours of the night? What's my enforcement mechanism there besides local law enforcement? And if there's an HOA, maybe that's an avenue, but exploring all these things are very, very important. Well, that's where you use AI in your business to assist. And when I give talks on artificial intelligence, people are shocked that so many people, well, it's not even that big of an adoption yet, but at some point it's going to be kind of an all day long connected interface. Is that going to make us worse or better? Well, we'll have to wait and see. But at least it's kind of fun for now because it's going to remember those conversations you had with people. It's going to remember those things that you said you would do that you might not have written down at that particular time. Also, it's going to help you best prepare for presentations and presenting to the public. Now, most people, I think as time goes on, we're going to see a little bit of a pull away from AI generated content. So if somebody's making a video like this and they've cloned themselves, this isn't clone, this is me. I pinch because I think that's funny. It doesn't really have any application. I can make a clone pinch. But when I produce these things, they're not so much reading from a script. I might have a script in front of me like I have on the screen. Not so much a script, but kind of bullet points so I don't go off on a tangent and start talking about Alice in Wonderland and the rabbit and all that other stuff, who's always late, it seems. But trying to keep on target, that's important. But for people to look at artificial intelligence generated content, once they figure it out, I think we're going to see a pullback from that. And they're going to want to go back to the real human being talking about a particular subject matter that they might be interested in, an IE like this about artificial intelligence closing out January of 2026. A lot of things change on a daily basis in the AI. It seems like we have a very top-heavy AI system generation out there where you have, a handful of people running the entire show. That whole stock market's based around AI or some technology that enhances AI and that is necessary for AI's further growth. And then the questions also come in, lots of talk about job loss. There are going to be these issues with the corporate world now facing cutting of employees. I guess Amazon is going to be wiping out 30,000 jobs, at least over time. That's what the rumor is. And then you can see these other mainline companies that are doing that sort of thing as well. Question is back in the day, these rollouts weren't that fast. The job loss of these previous revolutions, that was something else that seems to be talked about a lot. Like, well, we've been through this before. Us as human beings get this. This is just part of the human condition. Is it really? Not this fast, I don't think. The thing is, in the past, when you had the Industrial Revolution, let's say you went from horse to car, it took quite a few decades, 4-ish, to get actual roads and freeways and highways put out there. So cars really were able to, pass up horses being the main mode of transportation besides walking. Once that occurred, then you saw cars really go into it. But that gave those people that were maybe some kind of a horse-related industry, that gave them some time to either upskill or do something else. When you're having a 3-year time period from the moment that GPT first came out to the world. And of course, this stuff's been worked on since the 50s, folks. And people have had dreams of this probably since the beginning. But at least, since the 1950s, but you had the ChatGPT November 30th, 2022. And that's when ChatGPT made its debut. And if you go back, Mo Godwin talks about the Netscape moment, when the internet went from, a whole bunch of lines on the code on a screen to a browser interface where now you have the window. So that's the interface that a human being gets to use the World Wide Web. You still do it right now. You use Chrome or you use Firefox, you use Internet Explorer. Is that even a thing? I know Microsoft has one, but you're using something, a Safari, if you're on Apple all the time. That's your browser. That's your portal into the World Wide Web. Now, right now for ChatGPT, these other AI systems, the portal is the browser. But bet you dollars to donuts, within a short amount of time, it's not going to be browser based any longer. It might be installed on your desktop, which you see some of the models do that, where their interface now is no longer in the browser, but you download their app onto your desktop, Apple or PC, like I have with Claude and ChatGPT, but basically the systems are in the computer itself. So I pull up the window, so there is no browser overlay. And roll out over the next few months, we're going to probably have some kind of wearable device. There'll probably something else where these screens that I have in front of me might not be very necessary, because we'll have it all in some pair of glasses or something else. But it's probably not going to be that massive, cumbersome mask. Maybe that's only going to be used for special things, but most likely we're going to have a completely different communicative type interface between a human being and AI. And expect that. It's coming. Where you are in your business, I think you talking about your business with AI, asking it those questions. How can you get more business? What's the best way to utilize AI in the performance of your duties in your business? What can you be doing with AI? And just ask it straight up. What can you do to help me grow my business? With which, depending on whatever it is, just write that in there and see what it says. Some of the people out there, especially in my generation, are thinking, well, I really don't want to give it a lot of information about me. I think that ship has sailed. People are talking about privacy. I think that privacy, you've probably given that away when you first turned on your computer and agreed to some kind of terms of service. Browsers as well, iPhones as well, television, smart TVs. Again, you're agreeing to something when you power this thing on and it comes up and you have to either enter an email or password or whatever it may be, but you can see how many of these agreements you've signed over your lifetime. It's probably a bunch. In fact, it's a lot. And the small print in there, well, it's all small print. What does it say? Does it say that you really don't have any rights? Probably. Maybe not in such negative terms or so crass, but I'm sure it gives a lot more rights away than we probably would want to. So knowing that, having basically an extra 30 or 40 IQ points available to you to use, AI really is a place where I never thought we would be. I look back with the research that I wanted to do, or even answers to questions that I didn't know. And if you weren't in a group of people or had somebody you could call, really those questions went unanswered until you found some kind of a source to be able to find out the answer to it, whether that's a library or a smart friend or somebody knowledgeable. Asking them was relatively a cool thing to give you the answer. No really way to verify it, but that really hasn't changed much either. But right now you can find out, basically having all the world's knowledge based here in your hand, and you're able to ask the question and find out the answer immediately so people don't have to wait. That's going to just continue on. And that is just a remarkable thing for me. Right now, the best way I think anybody could really adjust to this or start at least wrapping their mind around it is to claim more agency, claim that you have more power over things than maybe you did in the past. If I didn't know how to code, and I still really don't know how to code, but I am getting very good at making things using talking to the computer interface, the AI, and having it code things for me, and then taking that and putting it into VS Code, and then from VS Code, basically building a folder, then having the index.html folder inside there. And then this is all stuff that I've learned over the past couple of weeks. Now, I've been all in with AI, but now learning that you can use Claude Code and these other different systems to build sites. Yes, I built these. ConnorWithHonor.com. I built HonorElevate.com. I built Santa Clarita Coming Soon.com. I built. Now, while I say they're not great, yeah, they're not bad. I mean, they're pretty good. In fact, I can take one of these super expensive $15,000 real estate custom made websites. I can make it. I can make it just as good. It looks just as good. I can include all the functionality with it because I know how to speak. Now, finally, I know how to speak to the different large language models and make it and change it. And you get that stuff into VS Code, which, again, I'm very new at this. So if you're a programmer or a coder watching this, please, well, laugh all you want, I guess, but I can take VS Code and then I can have it modify the code. If I have an embed form or a calendar, you'll see those on those pages. If I have a form as well, if I want to make the pictures where they kind of line up or kind of bubble up as you move the cursor over, I know one of them I put together. What is it? SantaClaritaComingSoon.com. Oh, yeah. You go to SantaClaritaComingSoon.com, and what you'll see is the cursor has a large halo around it, moving around on the page. Interesting. And then on these funnel pages that I vibe coded into the world, you can also, when you click on any of the items that talk about scheduling appointment, then it moves to the page. Instead of being multi-pages deep, it's really a funnel page or a web app that's just going to have all the information contained on one as you scroll down. And then it's going to give little reminders. I know ConnorWithHonor.com. I had that. I like Tron, so I have that Tron grid in there. But learning how to do that and then get to GitHub, which is called GitG, Netlify, pull that information. That's exciting. That took a while. And then there's bugs, right? So I have a whole new appreciation for coders and programmers. I never thought I never really gave much thought to the depth that you have to be able to be on that end of it. I'm just calling this stuff into existence verbally. And when stuff breaks, the system still fixes it, but it takes a few iterations, in some cases, a lot. And then in some cases, it doesn't realize the problem, but almost 9 times out of 10, the problem was me because I didn't build what I need to build. I didn't build a repo. I didn't publish something. I didn't have it connected to something on the other end of it. Like Netlify wasn't seeing a Git. It wasn't communicating. And VS Code wasn't, what was the other one? What's the other? There's just so much to it. But realizing that, some of these things, a super base wasn't, I wasn't dropping the right code into there. And then just learning this has been incredible. Understand this, your wheelhouse, the things you have influence over, the things you have agency over, you need to understand it's pretty much everything. Maybe not your end of life dance. Maybe that's something that's still preordained in some way. But ultimately, you have a lot of more control than you can imagine. If you're in your 50s and you've maybe been divorced after 30 years, or now you're alone and you don't know what to do, and maybe retire, or maybe you don't have much of a retirement at all, and maybe you're one of those people where you watch these podcasts and stuff. They always talk about the young generation, the kids out there. The young people are going to take over. You know what? I want to slap these people when they say it, because I appreciate young people. I understand they're so neuroplastic, but I still think there's something to be said about somebody that's been on this planet 50 plus years that's now going to embrace this technology and learn it and use it. And I think that person, if they're able to, which I know they are, if they dedicate some time, they're going to run circles around people that are half their age. Plus, they're going to be carrying all this extra knowledge and life experience now. You might say that's a bunch of hogwash, because that extra stuff they're carrying, it's some biases. It's biased to something. It's some kind of pre-programmed bias, and you're going to maybe fall back and say, well, you have these large language models that if they're just left alone to do medicine, to perform, then they do much better than a human doctor and themselves, because the human doctor brings some kind of a bias into the mix. That's fine. We're talking about something a little bit different. We're talking about human beings that are 50 plus years old learning this AI technology and doing just what I did. Actually, you have a thought. No longer do I have to try to call up a programmer or somebody I know and pay tens of thousands of dollars later to build some kind of an idea I had. I can do it, and I can make it better. I don't like the way that looks. Can you change it? It goes in and it modifies it and change it. How do you get all that set up? Well, you just have to learn it. You're going to have to. The one that taught me was Gemini, and also ChatGPT, and also Claude. Claude Code is amazing, and I get why everybody's saying it's fantastic. Now, I burn through tokens like a crazy person, because there for a while before using the actual Claude Code, I was just using Claude, and I was sticking in a thousand lines of code, asking it to look. And of course, I didn't understand that that's a lot of tokens. So I'm burning through it. So then my Claude has to wait a few hours to reset at the $20 a month plan. And that's where I'm at. So now I went into VS Code, and I have a couple of the different large language models activated in there. And then that modifies and changes the code. And it does it all the way through. It goes from there to GitHub, and then it modifies that. And then at that moment, I'll have that send a notification and push it. And then from there, Netlify is watching. So Netlify, which is, I don't know, I really don't know what to call it. It's almost like where you would basically have your information stored, kind of like, not a server. Maybe it is kind of like a server. But that's basically where your website lives on the Netlify. There's that one, and there's another one, not Cursor. Anyway, but that's the system, and it's inexpensive. So you have your domain living on there. So you code this thing, you get it all put together. It goes into, you push it into Netlify. Netlify sees it, and then you get to look at the web page, and that's your web page. And then you just do some domain DNS changes if you already have domain name. If not, you can buy one through there. But now you have a live web page. That's what Connor with Honor is. Oh, and then favicon. You want to see those little? Check out my favicon. I got my Jerusalem crosses on there, a gold badge or a gold shield like law enforcement, and then another little cross below. Check it out. It's right there. I think they look great, and that's going to be my trademark on everything. That's what I'll put as a favicon. Who did that? Well, you just go to VS Code after it's all hooked up, which again, maybe a 20-year-old could have done it faster because they understand it, but I had to learn it, but I'm better for the learning. And now when something breaks or I screw something up, I can fix it. But you basically say, hey, I want a favicon added to this. Once it adds it, say that's done. I look at it. I installed something. Again, yeah, okay. I installed something so I could run it and look at it, because it's not, you think that it would just pop up like in Claude Code. Is it Claude Code? DeepSeek. DeepSeek has it popping up in a window there so you can see what you're working on, which is kind of cool. DeepSeek's free. The Chinese owned, maybe that's an issue for proprietary stuff. And if you're making this stuff for like big corporate businesses, there's probably, because we don't know code, the Vibe people, maybe they could hide some crap in there that wouldn't be good. So if you're going to start doing this on some kind of a big scale, you'd probably want to have somebody go through it, or there's probably a different AI system that you can have look at the code and make sure it's okay. Maybe even VS Code. There's a lot of extensions in there, so maybe it's got something that'll look for mal code or some other nonsense that's put in there. But I'm excited. Here I am, about to be 57 years old. And this is something that finally I get. I can take a dream and I can build it and I can publish it and I can look at it and I can use it and I can have people connect with me through it. And even I have zero.honorelevate.com. I did an AI show. All of those sites are vibe coded. Now, I did those the hard way, where basically I went to Claude Code and I said, hey, I want a site like this. So I took the code, I dropped it in a notepad. This was before I wrapped my mind around the VS Code stuff. I dropped it in a notepad, and from notepad, oh my God, trying to understand that every executable file has to be index.html. That's the file name. I mean, so you put that in the folder. The folder is really where everything lives, all the components. But one of them is an index.html file. That's the code behind the website. And it must have taken me a day to put it together, why this stuff wasn't running, because it was something index.html. It wasn't just index.html. It's got to be just that. If it's not that, and the programmers don't beat me up, but I think that's the only way that it runs. If it's like to index.html or my index.html or CWH, Connor with Honor index.html. Yeah, it doesn't work. And how frustrating is that? So a day later, after even a dream, I'm like, oh my God, when it says index.html, it really means just index.html. Okay. I'm going to quit showing off. Thank you. I would love to hear some comments of this, but I think us older folks, I think we can really do this. We can really make a good go of this. Now, is this going to be enough to bring in that kind of income that you're looking for? If you happen to be in the retire world, or like me, no retirement, you're just, moving through, and hopefully you telling yourself that you want to live multiple more lifetimes, which that's my brain. We got to get to his escape velocity. I'm excited about that. But where are you right now? What kind of things do you want to learn? Maybe we can learn them together. Put it in the comments below. I'd love to hear it and communicate with you. And I hope you're well. And I don't know why I picked that up. And we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.